20 years ago, on a bitter winter night, Officer Daniel Harper was nearing the end of a long shift. Snow dusted the sidewalks of the quiet town, and Christmas lights blinked softly in the distance. Daniel had been a police officer for over a decade. He had seen tragedy, cruelty, and heartbreak, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to find. A faint cry echoed from behind an abandoned warehouse near the edge of town. At first, he thought it was a cat, but the sound came again, fragile, desperate, unmistakably human. Daniel rushed toward it. Behind a stack of broken wooden crates, huddled together under a torn blanket, were 6 little girls. The oldest looked no more than 8. The youngest was barely a toddler. Their faces were pale from the cold, their tiny hands shaking. Their eyes, those eyes, were filled with fear and exhaustion, far too heavy for children so young. The eldest girl stepped in front of her sisters as Daniel approached. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling but brave. "Don't take us away." Daniel knelt slowly, removing his gloves so he could feel their icy hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. "I'm here to help." Through broken sentences and tears, he learned their story. Their mother had passed away months earlier. Their father had disappeared long before that. They had been evicted from their small apartment and had been moving from place to place, sleeping in parks, behind buildings, surviving on scraps. They had only each other. That night, Daniel didn't just call for social services. He wrapped them in his coat, carried the youngest in his arms, and placed them carefully in his patrol car. He drove them to the hospital to ensure they were safe and healthy. And as he watched them sleep in warm beds for the first time in months, something shifted inside him. Daniel was a widower. His wife had died in a car accident 3 years earlier, leaving him alone in a house once filled with laughter. He had no children. The silence at home had been unbearable. When social services began discussing separating the girls into different foster homes, Daniel felt his chest tighten. "They belong together," he insisted. "They've survived because they stayed together." Adopting one child was challenging. Adopting 6 seemed impossible. His colleagues thought he was crazy. His family worried he was acting out of grief. But Daniel had made up his mind. "I may not have much," he said quietly, "but I have love. And they deserve that." The legal process took nearly a year. There were inspections, interviews, doubts, and mountains of paperwork. But Daniel never gave up. He remodeled his small house, turning his study into a bedroom, painting walls in soft colors, assembling bunk beds late into the night. When the adoption became official, the 6 girls, Emily, Grace, Lily, Sophia, Hannah, and little Ava, stood beside him in the courtroom. The judge smiled as she finalized the papers. "Officer Harper," she said warmly, "you're not just serving your community. You're building a family." As they walked out of the courthouse, Ava tugged on his sleeve. "Are you really our dad now?" Daniel knelt down, tears filling his eyes. "Forever," he whispered. And just like that, 7 broken hearts began to heal together. The first year wasn't easy. Daniel quickly realized that love alone didn't erase trauma. The girls woke up screaming from nightmares. They hoarded food under their pillows. They flinched at sudden noises. They were afraid that at any moment, someone would take them away again. Daniel attended parenting classes and therapy sessions with them. He learned how to braid hair, pack school lunches, and soothe fears at midnight. His once quiet home transformed into a symphony of giggles, arguments, slammed doors, and bedtime stories. Money was tight. Daniel worked overtime shifts, sometimes coming home exhausted. But no matter how tired he was, he never missed a school recital or parent-teacher meeting. Emily, the eldest, struggled the most. She had carried the weight of protecting her sisters for so long that she didn't know how to be a child. Daniel noticed how she rarely smiled, how she always made sure her sisters ate before she did. One evening, he found her washing dishes alone. "You don't have to take care of everything anymore," he said softly. She avoided his eyes. "If I don't, who will?" He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "I will. That's my job now." For the first time, Emily broke down. Years of fear and responsibility poured out in tears. Daniel held her as she cried, promising her that she could finally rest. Slowly, Trust grew. The girls started calling him Dad without hesitation. They decorated the house with handmade drawings. They filled the fridge with report cards and gold stars. Holidays became magical. Birthdays were celebrated with homemade cakes and slightly off-key singing. Daniel wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. Sometimes he raised his voice when overwhelmed. Sometimes he felt doubt creeping in. But every night, he checked on each of them, whispering, "You're safe. I'm here." And they believed him. Years passed, and the little girls who once shivered behind a warehouse began to bloom. Emily discovered a passion for medicine. Grace loved music. Lily excelled in academics. Sophia had a heart for helping others. Hannah dreamed of becoming a teacher. Ava, the baby he once carried in his arms, grew into a bright, fearless child with endless curiosity. Daniel watched in, or as they grew, not just in height, but in confidence and joy. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were thriving. Raising 6 daughters required sacrifices Daniel never spoke about. He sold his motorcycle to afford Emily's science camp. He skipped vacations to save for college funds. He patched his old uniform instead of buying new clothes. He often ate the smallest portion at dinner, pretending he wasn't hungry. But he never complained. When Grace needed a piano for practice, he bought a used one and spent nights repairing it himself. When Lily faced bullying at school, he met with the principal and stood fiercely by her side. When Sophia organized a charity drive, he helped her deliver donations in his patrol car. The girls noticed more than he realized. They saw the dark circles under his eyes. They heard him coughing quietly, at night but brushing it off as just a cold. They watched him fall asleep in his chair after long shifts. Yet he never missed a single important moment. High school graduations came one by one. Emily earned a scholarship to medical school. Grace performed at a state music competition. Lily received academic honors. Sophia volunteered at shelters. Hannah tutored younger students. Ava won science fairs with projects she built at the kitchen table with her dad. At each milestone, Daniel clapped the loudest. "I'm the lucky one," he often said. But time, relentless and silent, continued moving forward. One autumn morning, Daniel collapsed at work. Years of stress and exhaustion had taken their toll. The diagnosis was serious, a heart condition that required immediate surgery. The medical bills were overwhelming, and his recovery would be long. When the girls, now young women, heard the news, they rushed home. The hospital room that once held fear was now filled with strength. Emily, now a resident doctor, reviewed his charts with determination. Grace organized a charity concert to raise funds. Lily managed finances with careful precision. Sophia coordinated community support. Hannah took leave from her teaching job to care for him. Ava, studying engineering, designed a home monitoring system to track his health. They refused to let him face this alone. "You spent your life protecting us," Emily said, holding his hand. "Now it's our turn." The surgery was successful, but recovery was slow. Daniel struggled with guilt, feeling like a burden. One evening, as he sat in his living room, now filled with adult daughters bustling around, he overheard them laughing in the kitchen. That laughter, it was the same sound that had once filled his lonely house with hope. Tears slipped down his cheeks. He realized then that his greatest achievement wasn't medals or commendations. It was them. On the 20th anniversary of their adoption, the girls planned something special. They invited Daniel to the old courthouse where it had all begun. Confused but curious, he walked inside to find it decorated, with photos spanning 2 decades, tiny, girls in oversized coats, school plays, graduations, holidays, hospital visits. At the front of the room stood his 6 daughters. Emily stepped forward. 20 years ago, you saved 6 little girls who had nothing. Grace continued, her voice trembling. You gave us a home. Lily added, you gave us education. Sophia whispered, you gave us safety. Hannah smiled through tears. You gave us belief. Ava finished, her voice strong. You gave us love. Together, they handed him a framed document. They had paid off his mortgage. They had created a community scholarship in his name for children in foster care, and they had arranged for him to retire comfortably with a trust fund built from their combined savings. Daniel was speechless. "I didn't do this for repayment," he finally said. "We know," Emily replied gently. "That's why you deserve it." They embraced him, 6 women who once fit beneath a single torn blanket, now standing tall because one man chose compassion over convenience. As Daniel looked at them, he saw not the frightened children from that winter night, but confident, kind, extraordinary women. His voice broke as he whispered, "You are my greatest honor." And in that moment, surrounded by the family he chose and who chose him back, Daniel understood something profound. Love given selflessly doesn't disappear. It multiplies. And sometimes, 20 years later, it comes back wrapped in gratitude, strength, and tears that heal everything.